Hello, amazing people. Welcome back. So, guys, you guys remember Mike Igini? He's the one that gave many Nigerians hope about Beavers. How Beavers is going to, be a game changer. How Beavers is going to be wonderful in this election. So, this brought a lot of hope. That's why many people went out there to vote. But it was so unfortunately, what we saw after the election. He talked about the, getting 25% of a vote in FCT if truly you have to be pronounced as a winner. He talked about all this before the election. So since then we'll be waiting for to hear from him, his assessment about this whole thing and what's the way forward and all that. So he's here to give us the update. So I would love you guys to listen to him. But before then, if today is your first time here, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, like this video, share it as well. So let's listen to him together, guys, and don't forget to leave your thought in the comment section as always.
Many of our viewers will be excited seeing you because they've been asking after you. They've been saying, where is Mike Igini, who used to analyze elections before the elections and, the pyramid and Beavers as a game changer and calling on Nigerians to go out and vote and how technology would transform the Nigerian democratic process. Well, they said the Beavers and the IREV and the game changer didn't quite work as you projected. So they're asking you, where is that pyramid? And I should ask you, how market? After February 25.
Thank you very much, Dr. Abati, for having me. Even in the Bible, we are told that there is time and season for everything. So where we are right now, Dr. Abati, as you know very well, in the best of our tradition as a lawyer, is where all who participated in the election, analysts, citizens, stakeholders, one institution to which all must bow is the judiciary. This is where we are at the moment. Therefore, issues that have to do with conformity to or deviation from established norms, rules, and procedure are already now before the court. And the court, I believe, judges are immediately qualified to look into those matters. But today, my engagement as part of your background is the fact that both members of the bench and the bar, those who have either retired or still serving, and those of us in the system. And as all of you have always known, before I went into INEC, or the period I was in INEC, and even after, my clarion call had only been my constituency. Those who have been following me would have read my interviews years ago talking about my constituency, that in any democracy, the last line of defense of democracy and the rule of law remains the judiciary. Now, what I want to say today in this engagement, and I hope we have enough time, is to let Nigerians and the whole world know, particularly citizens of this country, that whatever we want to make of our country is clearly in our hands. Because this country, Nigeria, with all the human and material resources, all that's required is leadership. And that when we get the leadership question right in Nigeria, the speed with which Nigeria will attain greatness will be like the speed of the rocket. Now, talking about what is going on, because clearly we have to be highly restrained, but there are a lot to speak about the role of the judiciary. And my starting point this morning is to give a context to the conversation we're going to have this morning in terms of the expanding empire of the courts, the judiciary, in political matter, and the illusion that, which of course is quite indicative of the collapse of politics, and the illusion that the court can come up to fill the void, which is not possible. In any case, what you can only do is to damage our judiciary. Now, Dr. Abati, history is the graveyard for contending opinions. Today, we are now in court over the election that will be conducted. Now, what can we learn? What message do we need to give to ourselves with respect to the ongoing tribunal that's ongoing, having regard to what happened in the US, in United Kingdom, particularly, which is going to be my major reference point in this conversation today. Dr. Abadi, it should be noted, by way of giving this background information, that the United Kingdom, that today is one of the countries that all our people, they go to. In fact, after Nigeria, they go to the UK. It should be noted that even the UK that introduced Nigeria to election rigging for a period of 99 years, almost 100 years, there have been no post-election adjudication in the United Kingdom. Why? At the beginning of the practice of democracy in the 19th century, when election rigging, vote buying, because on records, electoral historians have documented, evidence showing clearly that the UK, America, Russia, Latin American countries, particularly the UK and US, were the most notorious countries for vote buying in the 19th century. And what did they do? At that time, the concern was that they were using landlords, they were using employers of labor, there was voter intimidation, and of course, vote buying. Election was not a one-day affair. Election was for several days. In order to deal with issues about vote buying, to deal with electoral manipulation in England, they reduced election to a day event by virtue of the 1832 Act. Now the question was, when there was fraud, manipulation, vote buying, what was the response? How was petition treated? Election petition, initially in England, was never entertained by the court of law. What was the reason? The reason was that if politicians in England could buy votes, could buy landlords, could buy employer labor to compel people to vote, that there was no way they would not do that in the judiciary. That would lead to the capture of the judiciary in England. They now said, look, we must not allow that to happen because politicians are capable of doing that. So they declined that the court should not entertain election petition in England because it will lead to what we call judicial capture. They will corrupt judges. They will have judges in their pocket in England. That was why they took that decision. And so what happened? They said all petitions should be taken to the parliament. Now in parliament, because of majority and minority situation in the parliament, petitions from opposition party never saw justice, never saw the light of the day. And that went on for several decades in UK. When it got to a point, at that time, as at 1832, they now realized that the only way to go is to now to go back to a different habitat, to go back to the court. But to do so, what did they do in England? They decided that the very reason why they didn't want court to entertain what they call election petition, that they need to protect judiciary, because without the rule of law, without an independent judiciary, it will be difficult, if not impossible, to sustain democracy. And so what did they do? At that time, the Australian people have already discovered what we call the secret balloting, because remember, Dr. Abati, that voting historically was an open balloting system before now. It was when the Australian people now came up in 1856 with the what they call the Secret Ballot Act that was resisted in England, was resisted in United Kingdom, But when they now decided that, look, see, there's no electoral justice in England, that the matter must go back to the court, that led to the 1872 Act. The 1872 Secret Ballot Act of 1872. That also added to it what you call consequence for any politician who had with either their agent, because just as we have agent here, they also had agent in England, that if you are found for election rigging, you will be expelled from parliament and also banned from participating in politics for 6 years. Even despite that, there were also evidence that what was going on. They now passed the 1883 Act that placed a ban for life from participating in politics.
All right.
When they did that, it was at that point that the matter was now essay. Just land on it. The matter was now taken to the court in England. Now, in England, the judges were conscious. They were very mindful of their integrity of the judiciary. And that is why in England, politicians are afraid of the judiciary. They are afraid of judges because the judiciary can never be a safe haven. So all matters that came to the court, they were so treated strictly to discourage people coming to the court so that people can return back to the polling way. That is why for a period of 99 years, there have been no post-election adjudication until 2010, when the Liberal Democrat brought a kind of when they came up and won the election and actually disrupted the process for a period of 99 years. So the question is, why is it that in our country we continue to go to the court with all the negative perception that is now surrounding our judiciary? So,
all right, Mr. Igini. Okay, thank you very much for that opener. Very important for laying the foundation for our conversation this morning. If we hear you right, are you saying that the court or the judiciary should not be dependent on with regards to electoral matters? But before you respond to that, that's just to clarify what you've said. The reason why people would go to court, and even the APC who won the presidential election kept egging their opposition or their opponents to go to court, because the belief is that if you're not satisfied with the conduct of the elections, or perhaps certain aspects of the elections or the emergence of the winner, then you have your right to go to court. If the elections are conducted free, fair, and widely considered credible, then the issues or the basis for a petition would not even be found. I'd like you to respond on these grounds to INEC's response, petition response to the PDP's petition response, saying that BVAS was not designed for the immediate transmission of results or to collation centers. Because you spoke a lot about BVAS before the elections, and what a number of Nigerians had been assured was that BVAS was the game changer. It was going to make the elections as transparent as possible. In their response as well, they mentioned that IREV, that's the, that IREV was not designed for collation of results either, which is contrary to what a number of people had believed and what you had also, said when you were here before the elections. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Is INEC moving away from what they initially said, or are they moving away from what they initially said, or has this been the case right from time? Was this your understanding as well?
Ayo, thank you very much. Again, let me restate a part of my opening remarks about the fact that issues of conformity to or deviation from established norms, the Electoral Act, regulations, and guidelines are already now the issues before the tribunals. And as a lawyer, those are domains which will leave for them now. But the most important message, which is part of this engagement this morning, is that the judges, the judiciary, must be mindful of its place in the affairs of our society, particularly in the practice of democracy. And that is why I am given the historical background. It is not because that in all human activities, when there is disputes, the place to go to is the court of law. But I've said that the judiciary in England, judges in England, they were mindful of the fact that if the court of law is now made to answer political questions, such as who's a candidate, the political party, as we have seen, with all the aberration we saw during the political party primaries, the fear in England was that there will be a capture of the judiciary. Today, in our country, you could see politicians bragging all over the place, something that is unheard of in England, of judges, their friends, that they can do whatever they get. They say go to court. That is what they tell you every time. The reason why that has been so, which is the lesson I want us to draw from the experience in the United Kingdom, was that judges were so strict to discourage people to come to the court. That is, by delivering justice according to the law, both substantive and procedural. Whenever there's a violation of a procedure, you'll be held accountable. Judges, the judiciary, held political elite accountable in England. And that's why they are afraid of judiciary in England. They are afraid of judges in England. But in Nigeria, those who willfully go out to violate electoral process, to undermine the integrity of public institutions, they are the first to tell you that you should go to court. So the question now is for judges, and for the judiciary to reflect on this. Why is it that people gleefully violate the law and they tell their opponent, go to court? This is the lesson that we must learn. That is to say that today you are the last line of defense in defense of democracy and the rule of law. The judiciary must stand tall and mighty in defense of the rule of law and the process. That is the message.
Come in here because I'll still like for you to respond to Dr. Bati's question and the question I'd answered earlier. I just want to make it a bit more specific again. We're talking about your assessment of the elections, very specifically around areas that you yourself had spoken about before the elections. So I'd like, BVAS, IREV didn't work, IREV didn't work in terms of transmission of results on the day, especially for the presidential results. And INEC put it down to technical glitches. Before the elections, you had talked about you'd given us details of how much had gone into the creation of BVAS and how secure it was. And the word that kept coming out was that it was a game changer. In fact, a number of people said that inspired them to go out to vote because they felt that their vote would be valid. It would be a transparent process, so their votes would count. I want you to tell us, what do you think could have happened? What could these technical glitches have been, despite the huge budget that was committed to this process and also the human power that was also committed to this process and your confidence in BVAS in itself? I'd like you to specifically speak to that, please. And also when you look at the assessment, even with regards to some of the issues that INEC encountered, late start, some areas, lack of preparation, adequate preparation, violence, despite security operatives' assurances, those are the things that people want to hear you speak about, especially from your experience as a former resident electoral commissioner. At least you have an insight into how elections are run right from the, from inside.
Ayo, what is it that I have not said? People should just go back to the interview I had with Charles Nyagulu. I said everything I needed to say. I have made it clear to everybody that this is not the time for people like us to be talking about the profound benefit of the BVAS. When we had situations where people were killed, people were prevented from voting, there was ethnic profiling. My family had been in Lagos since the 50s, in Surulere. My cousin, who was born in Lagos here, was to be beaten up in Surulere. He married to an Abekuta lady. My sister married to a Yoruba person in this Lagos. These things happened. These were not the things I campaigned about. There was a clarion call. The clarion call was very clear. People should come out because we have used it for 105 elections. Apart from Oshu, for instance, all other elections, they were not challenged in court. What was challenged was about, oh, you are not qualified, you didn't go to this school, all those governorship elections. None was actually challenged on terms of process and procedure. But we all witnessed what happened. And the first interview I got was to Arise Television. Now you have seen that parties have exchanged briefs in the tribunal. And that's why I said, look, there is not much of thing. I granted interview, both in written form and to everybody, print, electronic. And I made it very clear that I'm still in shock about the behavior, what we saw, that the conduct of political class have not complemented the reform that we have made these years. And it's a tragedy that politicians conducted themselves in the most shameful manner. On the election day, one of our own, a Queen's Counsel, a professor who had very pressing matters outside Nigeria, but he placed Nigeria interest above every other thing. He flew down to the country, to Delta State, to go and vote. What he observed was a crime scene. He called me. That how could this be? We are talking one of the finest, the most celebrated Queen's Counsel we have. One that even the British legal community described as one who, whatever does not know in law, is not worth knowing. That was what he experienced. So, Ayo, right now, I told you that in the best of our tradition, because I've also seen lately that people are going to specific right now as to what people have exchanged brief already. I mean, you were asking me to be responding to the electoral management body's response to petitioner's brief. I mean, why should I go into that? I can't go into that. I should not go into that. Let's wait for the court to decide that.
Honorable Igini, I'm sorry I had to interrupt you there to take our correspondence.
Yes, so
please go on.
Yes, Ayo, that is why I'm of the view that Nigeria cannot be in autarky or best practice around the world. The judiciary, the judges must remain very strict. You must discourage people from seeing judiciary as a safe haven for wrongdoing in our country. Society make progress on the basis of reward and sanction. Right now, briefs have been exchanged. It is not for me now to comment virtually. I mean, my greatest frustration for our country is that even when we see a storm coming, a storm seeing coming should not blind the eye. There are things that we have said over and over and over again, but yet nobody is listening. The rule of law, the first victim of the subversion of democracy is the rule of law. And that's why judiciary must stand tall and mighty to discourage politicians. How can you be heard in England that a politician will boast in that they will do whatever they will like, they will go to the court in England and they will get what they want? It's unheard of. That was why judges, Jonathan Sampson, the retired Supreme Court Justice of England, warned of the expanding empire of the court on political matters. For anybody to think that the decline of politics can be filled, that void can be filled by judiciary, is a fundamental error. Judges, judiciary, you must show to politicians that our judiciary cannot be. Look, the legal profession, it is one profession that is not just for making a living at all. It is one that has a special relationship with the society in terms of order. And that's why I said, if I come to this world again, I want to be a lawyer. But this time around, I will be in the bench so that I can wait for the enemies of society and see what they will do. So, Ayo, what happened? Our expectations in terms of not even having to have this huge number of cases in court is largely unmet. Where did they expect that this is the way it's going to go if everybody complied with the rules and regulations as we have put in place?